Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be answering the question, what happens if your Honwave gets a puncture? Will it float or will it sink? So that's exactly what we're going to be testing today. We're out in Cloughey Bay in my Honwave. It's the T32 model, the air floor, and I'm quite often out fishing about 3 miles away in the distance, and I've often wondered if I've got fishing hooks about, there's a real risk my Honwave could get a puncture. And I've always assumed the manufacturer will have tested this, and that if one chamber goes down, given that the boat has 5 different chambers, there's 2 main tubes on either side, 1 at the end, and 2 high pressure chambers in the air floor. And I've always thought the manufacturer's bound to have tested this. If one of those chambers get punctured, the other chambers should be able to hold you up. But nobody else, as far as I'm aware, has actually tested this on YouTube. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to simulate a puncture in each of the tubes in turn and see what happens to the boat. So we're out in Cloughey Bay. We're only really a few meters offshore, and we're only in maybe about 1.5 meters up depth. So it's hopefully safe enough to do this. And what we're going to do, we're going to puncture each of the chambers in turn, or simulate a puncture, by opening the valve and pressing it in and keeping our finger on the valve to let it fully deflate, exactly the same as it would do as if it's got a puncture. I brought my Bravo pump out with me, and I've got a large battery here, so hopefully we're going to be able then to pump up the tubes and try a different tube and see what effect it has. So let's get on with the test. Okay, so the first tube we're going to start with is the air floor. So do you want to pull this back for me, Daniel? Yeah. And we've got the valves here. So I'm going to let you take it down for me, Daniel. So if you just keep your finger on that valve. And just keep your finger on it. So hopefully the air floor won't make too much of a difference if it gets punctured. I'm sure it's going to make a difference to the speed the boat can go at, but hopefully it shouldn't affect the boat when it comes to risk of sinking. Is there air still coming out of it? No. No, so that's it. Okay, so letting one of the air chambers down in the floor doesn't really seem to make any difference with the 2.5 horsepower outboard. It doesn't really push the boat along that fast anyway. It only goes about 7-8 miles an hour with 2 of us in it with this outboard. Had you a more powerful outboard like my 9.8 horsepower where we're going along at 21-22 miles an hour, you would notice a difference with the air floor. But as we're not going to plane, it felt just as stable as it did without the air floor. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to deflate the other air floor chamber and see what difference that makes. Okay, Daniel, do you want to deflate the other chamber? So keep the pump up and turn the valve and deflate it. And just keep your finger on it until no more air comes out. Press the other one as well, just to make sure they're both fully deflated. Put one hand on each. Okay. Is that them fully deflated? No air?
No, back towards the left.
Okay, just wait till it's emptied.
Yeah, that's it now.
Okay, that's us. So you can see the floor flopping about there, but actually the boat still feels pretty good in the water. Okay, so that actually didn't feel too bad at all. The floor, I can still stand on it, although it is pretty wobbly. But given the low horsepower of the outboard, it didn't actually make that much difference to the handling. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pump the floor back up again, and then we're going to let down one of the other chambers. Okay, so go ahead, Daniel. And again, just keep your finger on it. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll start going a little bit just in the shallows. Okay, just you keep your finger on the valve, and that simulates the puncture. And we'll just stay close to the shore. Okay, so again, that actually worked much better than I thought it was going to. The two chambers at the front actually seem to hold the boat up pretty well. I'm not sure, did any of them, did they come out? Yes, they have. You can see as I'm pressing here, the air has actually come out of this chamber and moved over to the front. So it's actually hard a little bit further out. And that seems to have actually, the structure of the boat have kept the boat up in the water, and actually no extra water came into the boat, and we really didn't have to limit our speed, although the water is reasonably calm around us. So again, I think if both air chambers at the bottom were to go, you'd be okay, and I think if the front one by itself was to go, you're probably going to be okay as well, as long as you're not in rough water. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to pump up the front chamber again, and then we'll let down one of the side chambers and see what happens. Okay, so we're going to let the main chamber down, Daniel. So if you let this tube down and keep your finger on it. Is that other chamber coming across? Yes, the front's come across from there to there. You can actually feel it. Just keep your finger on it and that will simulate the puncture. That looks actually pretty flat, so that tube's pretty saggy now. That's it. Okay, so I think we probably could try that, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll pull the anchor and we'll have a go. Let me just start the out. I'm going to have to drive the outboard from the wrong side. It's the only problem. You just keep your finger on it when we're going then.
Okay.
Right, so I'm going to have to go from this side. This won't be easy. Should have thought about that before. I cannot drive it with that arm. Definitely couldn't. Okay, so that actually was really surprising. Even with this chamber fully deflated, the boat actually was really stable in the water. And I think it's on two parts. I think the first part that happens is this tubing comes across a little bit, which makes this actually still quite rigid. And when it's supplied onto here, the boat is actually fairly stiff with one chamber down. So any one of the chambers down, we're okay. And then we've got Matthew, who is photobombing the video, really dying to get into the boat. So what we're going to have to do now, I think, is really push this a bit further. I think if any one of your chambers went down, you'd probably be okay to get back to shore, provided the water wasn't really rough. The other thing I was worried about was I carry a lot of stuff in the boat. I have a spare outboard at the front, and I have a big outboard at the back. But I don't actually think this is going to make any difference because the boat seems to go quite rigid. The seat in the middle actually seems to help hold things together as well. So next, let's try 2 chambers and see what happens. Okay, so the next thing we're going to simulate is a side-on impact that's taken out the side tube, but also the bottom floor on the same side. Okay, Daniel, do you want to let the floor down on this side? Stand on that. So is any air coming out of it still?
Yeah.
Okay, just keep pressing the valve in then.
That's it.
Okay, so the air is all out. Okay, so the back is actually still rigid. Here isn't quite as rigid as it was before. The floor obviously gave quite a bit of structure. But I think we could probably give that a go, couldn't we? Yeah. We can certainly go along the shore. Again, we should have definitely have done the tube on the other side because I'm going to have to try sitting on the floor as well because I can't drive the boat with my right hand. So I'll get the outboard started and then you can hold the anchor.
Yep.
Okay, I'll anchor up. Okay, let's try this and see how we get on. Okay, so pleasantly surprised by the Honwave. It performed really well with the floor and the side tube down at the same time, and I think given good weather conditions you should be able to get the boat back to shore should you have a puncture involving 2 of those chambers. So I think we're going to do our final test now, which is we're going to let the front chamber down as well. So that's going to be 3 full chambers down running off 2 chambers. So I don't know if we're going to motor with the outboard with this. We'll see how stable it is when we've let the front chamber down. Okay, Daniel, go ahead and let the front chamber down. Air still coming out?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll wait.
That's it.
Okay, so the air's all out. Right, I'll get the outboard started and we'll see. Not too optimistic about this one. Okay, go ahead with the anchor. Okay, I'll put the anchor down. Okay, so really impressed with this boat. We're running on 2 chambers, the tube on this side and the floor. Obviously the other chambers aren't fully deflated, but in real life that's what's going to happen if you get a puncture. Some of the air is going to leak out, but then it's going to reach a point where the pressure is not that high to force the air out. So this is pretty much what we've got. We've got this chamber deflated, and the front deflated. But given the good conditions we've got here, we were able to actually go about at very minimally reduced speed. I think obviously if you were in rough seas, it would be a very different matter, and it wouldn't take much for the boat to get flooded in the waves. So certainly 2 chambers down, I don't think you should have any problem, and 3 down in good conditions. Hopefully you'll be able to get back to shore. Although if you have your boat filled with lots of equipment, you may actually have to throw some of it out to enable you to get back to shore. But well done to Honda. They've done an excellent job engineering this boat and testing it, and I'm actually much more impressed than what I thought I was going to be with today's test. I thought certainly we'd get 1 down, maybe 2, but I wasn't expecting to do 3 today, and it was only when I seen how well it did we decided to push it. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you have, give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to be notified about future videos. Thanks for watching.